Yo guys, it's Andrew. So this video is about my thoughts and first impressions on the first few hours of the MMORPG Lord of the Rings Online, to share how I feel about the new player experience and give a perspective of a new player like myself to this game. Personally, I love MMOs and I love RPGs. I have thousands of hours combined in multiple MMOs like World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, Runescape, and many other MMOs in the genre. I've played thousands of hours alone in World of Warcraft since 2010, near the end of the Wrath of the Lich King. I've played a good couple thousand hours of Final Fantasy XIV since 2020, have thousands of hours in Elder Scrolls Online since beta in 2013, and I've been recently giving my impressions on Guild Wars 2 fully, which I'm also new to as well, or semi-new to as well. Before we get started, I want to disclaim that my opinions on Lord of the Rings Online are going to be very limited and only based on the first few hours of playing the game, maybe about 4 to 5-ish hours so far on my first character that I'm really getting into, and basically have done the intro into Lord of the Rings Online. Now, I did play the game when I was younger, in the very early 2010s, maybe 2012 I think, but barely enough to even remember what I even did in the game. Maybe I don't even know how far I got, maybe the first few levels from, and all I really remember is the class and race I played, which I played as the race of man and played a captain. Fast forwarding today, Lord of the Rings Online is available on Steam, has a surprising amount of content totally free to play, and seems to keep a healthy player base at it, as it has managed to stay afloat for so long. Which is not totally surprising considering the massive fan base of Lord of the Rings itself has, so it would make sense that people would flock and stay with Lord of the Rings Online, the MMO, of course. But again, my knowledge will be very limited. It is based on my first impressions to help anybody else wondering if they want to play Lord of the Rings Online and if it's worth trying out for their first few hours of their time. So please, if I give some sort of wrong information or mess something up that may be incorrect, for any Lord of the Rings Online veterans that may be watching this, please leave a comment below so I understand and possibly give a disclaimer so that I can correct any possible mistake that I made. If you are here to the channel for the first time, welcome. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment of your thoughts, subscribe, hit the bell icon to see possible future Lord of the Rings Online or general MMORPG content and videos, and get notifications from my channel. Now, to start off, of course, the most important part to any start of an MMORPG is the character customization. Now, I did decide to choose the race of man once again because I am basic as hell, but I honestly was genuinely surprised by just the sheer amount of customization you could do with a man. For an MMORPG that was released in 2007, I didn't expect something like this at all, for the race of man to have so much customization. I would say that this game I can compare the most to in terms of character customization is Elder Scrolls Online, where you can practically change almost everything about your character. Aside from the height for the race of man, you can change your weight, all the features of your face with sliders, you can give yourself scars and blemishes, eye color and skin tone changes of course, you can even change the origin of where you come from as the race of man, with some notable places from Lord of the Rings like Gondor, Dale, Breland, Rohan, and also you have other customizations for the race of man as well. Now, I did take a quick glance at the other races, and I did notice that they really did not have as much customizations as the race of man. That isn't necessarily to say that their customizations are bad, but they are a lot more static. For comparison's sake, you only are barely able to minorly change the mouth, eyebrows, and ears of, let's say, for example, a hobbit, compared to the race of man, where you have tons of sliders where you can literally change the position of your mouth, position of your eyebrows, shape of your eyebrows, shape of your ears, where your ears are located, all of it shaped fully. You can also change the color of your mouth, and so on and so forth. I will say the customization of the other races, it definitely suffices when it comes to the perspective of a 2007 MMORPG. But I do think some people will be disappointed, and some people may be satisfied depending on if you appreciate the visuals of an older game or not, which, personally, I do not mind the visuals of older games, older MMORPGs. I do think they hold a certain charm and can be timeless when done right, and I do think Lord of the Rings Online does have its own charm, which I do appreciate. However, I still just am genuinely surprised with how much you can change with the race of man if you so choose that race, which I did. There honestly must have been some sort of update that they did recently to change this, which I would assume that they did, because man just has much more customization to play around with. And I think for people who do choose that race, they will be very satisfied with how much you can do with the race of man. You also do have a couple of paid races, like the Stout Axe Dwarves and the River Hobbits, which I looked into it. It does cost 1,000 LOTRO points, which makes sense monetization-wise, since you can play a great portion of the game for free. Now, in terms of classes, there seems to be a wide plethora of classes you can choose from, like the typical Hunter, which focuses on ranged weapons, has melee weapons as a backup, the Champion, which seems to be pretty much the typical warrior, fighter, DPS, tank archetype, the Guardian, which seems to be pretty much the typical warrior, fighter archetype as well, but it seems to focus on more so playing defensively as a tank, and the Lore Master and Brood Keeper, which, from a glance, both look like the choice you'd make if you want to play a mage type of class with spells and stuff, and the Minstrel, which of course is the bard archetype that everybody knows and loves, that seems to be focusing mainly on healing and supporting your team. Once again, being the absolutely original and totally unique MMORPG player that I am, I picked a human male and picked the Hunter as my class. Now getting started into the Lord of the Rings Online story intro. Picking the race of man, which I assume probably has a unique intro compared to the others. I'm sure the other races have separate intros as well. I spawned in a bandit encampment, and the ranger Strider, who is totally not Aragorn, helped me break out of my cell. I did take a moment to change some key bindings to what I usually have for my other MMORPGs that I play, and it was very easy to change my key bindings for a new player who may want to do that as well. And it was very nice that I could actually move around my UI elements around my screen, since some of them were clipping into each other here and there, but it was very nice that I had the option to actually change exactly where I want to move my UI elements. Now, the man Strider, who totally is an Aragorn, destroyed a couple more of the bandits in our way, and I was able to get my first couple of weapons, which was a trusty bow and a couple of daggers. And then I had to beat up Strider to give myself a feel of the game's combat. Just a couple of minutes into the game, and you automatically get into you get a tiny feel of the combat, which is very nice. It is very much the standard tap target combat, similarly to games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, more so classic World of Warcraft. It definitely feels like a 2007 MMORPG the moment you feel out the combat for a little bit, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your preference, but we will get into that in the next section. We then went outside into the main area of the bandit encampment where Strider told me I needed to go kill some more enemies, more of the bandits, and help out a hobbit named Celandine, who burns down the bandit encampment to the ground like an absolute queen that she is. And we help out another hobbit named Mundo as well, help him out, get him out of there, and a black rider appears, and me and the hobbits are absolutely terrified, as we absolutely should be, and the black rider stabs another ranger named Amdir. The Black Rider does end up running off due to Celandine completely burning the place down, and we do escape with Strider. We land in the village of Archet in Breland, and we automatically are set off to speak with the village captain, who does not believe us at all when we tell him that there is a bandit threat, and that he doesn't really think it is that much of a threat, since we are newcomers who supposedly had dealt with this crazy perilous situation, and it doesn't really sound true. We try to convince the other villagers that the village may possibly be in peril, who also do not believe us, which, honestly, kind of makes sense. I mean, these people have no idea who we are, so I wouldn't believe some random strangers. And Strider sends me out to go get some medicine for Amdir, who was stabbed by the Black Rider. The captain also advises that I speak to Calder Cobb, who is one of his most trusted soldiers, to help him out, and as well to gain more trust with the village to see if we're actually useful. Maybe we are trustful. Walking out into the open area of Archet, I will say, genuinely charming area for a 2007 MMORPG. The moment I walked out of the little village walls, it captured that feeling of wanderlust that the Lord of the Rings itself is able to really capture extremely well. I help out Calder Cobb and get the medicine for Amdir, but talking to Calder Cobb after he sent me out to kill some of the wolves, he is totally suspicious, and he said that he was surprised that I'm still alive. He was trying to actually get me killed. But Calder Cobb is one of the best soldiers of the captain of Archit, which makes this situation more serious than most of us thought, as Calder Cobb, the most trusted soldier of Archit, may actually be with the bandits. I then go over to one of the farmland in Archit and talk to some of the farmers, and they ask me to see if I'm able to go to the next village close by named Combe. And Archit is fully blocked off from the rest of the other villages like Combe by those bandits themselves. The farmers then send me to go back to Archit to let the captain of Archit know that we are actually in trouble. This is a threat that is coming to the village. And the captain lets me know that his own son, John, actually warned him of a threat like this already, but disagreed, and John left the village because of the disagreement. So we do go to John, to his hunter encampment, and John sends us out to get information from those bandits because he agrees with us that there is a threat, and we definitely need to prepare. We acquired those plans, and the bandits are apparently planning to invade Archit through some ruins that are infested with spiders. We are sent by Atli Spiderbane, a badass sounding and looking dwarf, to go check out the spider-infested ruins. And in those ruins, there is a dead bandit scout covered in spiderwebs. John tells us that we actually can go through those ruins since it is right next to the village walls and prepare for the bandit siege that may be taking place. Because the bandits were not able to get into those ruins, we can take advantage of that fact. I am then taken into a solo instance, and the village is totally aflame, completely on fire, by the bandits that were sieging the village, and we go through a wall and try to fight back against the bandits that have made it in. We meet with Atli again, find the captain, the hobbits, and Amdir, and we fight back against waves of bandits that were coming in, and we hold them back. But then, Calder Cobb comes in with 2 Kargul, and of course, once again, we are completely terrified of these wraiths, and Calder Cobb just goes and kills the captain of Archit, John's father. And the Kargul leave with Amdir, the ranger who was stabbed by the Black Rider blade. Calder Cobb tries to finish the rest of us off, but we put Calder Cobb to an end. And the intro ends with a small cutscene where Archit is trying to rebuild, but many people have died from the attack, and now is a time of mourning, and Amdir is lost with those 2 Kargul wraiths. Honestly, didn't expect the ending to this intro to be relatively sad and actually have consequences that were not good at all. And the area of Archit has totally changed in-game, and lots of it is burned. And this is where I stopped, since now the storyline begins with the actual prologue to the overarching story. It was only the intro. And this intro, honestly, got me very invested in what comes next. The story did not have the typical we win the day and we're the hero. It has a very Lord of the Rings feel, as you would expect. It was very sad. It was melancholy. There was not a good ending. And honestly, I enjoyed myself a lot with the story thus far. It was very good. I really got invested, and I was very eager to explore even more as I go through the game. But now, aside from the story and the first zone of the game, now we get into my thoughts of the gameplay feel and the RPG mechanics of the game itself. Through the entire intro I did with the story in the first zone, the gameplay feel is definitely what you would expect of a 2007 MMORPG, as I said before. It utilizes tap-target gameplay, most similarly to World of Warcraft, more specifically classic World of Warcraft, and you can definitely feel the jank of the combat with the animations being relatively very quick, but despite this, I did feel like my attacks mattered a lot as I pressed them. As I said before, in the character customization section, I did pick a hunter as my class, and as a hunter, I build up focus points with my fast cast time shots and attacks, and then I utilize those focus points I build up to use high damage, no cast time attacks. As a hunter, I was able to completely slow down my enemies with arrow shot abilities that slowed down their movement speed, and if they did reach me, I was able to cut them down very easily with my dual weapons. It felt very satisfying, and honestly, it felt nice to have an answer to any situation and felt versatile when exploring the open world. This, however, is coming from someone who very much enjoys a lot of the older and classic MMORPGs, like classic World of Warcraft and old school Runescape. The jankiness of older MMORPGs, such as this, have a feel and a lot of charm that I think deserve to be tried out, despite people's preferences that you might have, and just see if you maybe feel the same way about that charm and enjoyment that you can find in older games, older MMORPGs such as this. Though I do even think, despite the jankiness, The Hunter class felt extremely satisfying, and every ability I pressed really mattered and had a lot of impact. The game even has something unique to it compared to tab target MMORPGs, which is a small queue system. If I press one ability and my character starts using it, I can then press another ability while my attack is going off, and it will place then that next ability in a small queue system, and I would automatically use that next ability the moment my first attack was done. I honestly liked this little touch in the gameplay, since I usually spam the ever-living crap out of my keys when I'm playing MMORPGs, but I decided that this time I would click one after the other very casually due to this nice queue system. Though my muscle memory sometimes failed me, and then once again I'm smashing my face into my keys, definitely there every now and again. Another neat touch as well with the gameplay is how Lord of the Rings Online does the looting system of enemy mobs that you have killed. All of the loot and money you get from enemy mobs is automatically picked up, and loot is put in a small menu at the bottom right of your screen, where it builds up over time. So instead of having to hassle with picking up every mob's loot over and over and over and over again every time you kill one, the loot builds up over time in that menu, where you can select it and put it in your inventory at any time. Within an hour, at least, since the loot does go away after an hour, but I think it is very nice, and even a small quality of life thing like this can save new players, and I assume especially a lot of veteran players, a lot of time running around in the world. It's a very nice quality of life touch. Now to get into the RPG mechanics of the game, of course, this works similarly again to other MMORPGs. You acquire new armor and weapons via the quests you are doing, sometimes rarely from the enemy mob drops, or from vendors where you can purchase and sell stuff. Since my class is a hunter, I can definitely assume that I am only able to deal DPS as a hunter. That is probably my primary role, and I utilize the agility stat. But once you hit level 2, you actually automatically unlock your specialization choices, which I think is really nice. You automatically allow a player to focus in on what they want to do as their class, or may want to do as their class. However, I will say it can be a little bit overwhelming for maybe a new MMORPG player who hasn't played much MMORPGs. Throwing so much information in their face very quickly can be a little bit threatening, which I would always advise new players of any MMORPG that may be threatened by stuff like this to just take things slowly. Read things over, don't get too stressed about it. Just look into it. Look up things online or ask questions of players that may seem nice. My choice as a hunter was between 3 choices: the huntsman, the bowmaster, and the trapper of foes. Looking over them relatively quickly, I did decide to go with the huntsman as the name sounded really cool to me, and it also allowed me to freely move and shoot by allowing me to use my cast-based shots while moving, which felt like a great upgrade to my class automatically the moment I was getting started. The huntsman specialization tree also gave me an extra melee attack, which I felt very powerful when using when enemies got close to me. And of course, every level you get a skill point per RPG fashion, and I was able to put my points into things like extra range damage, extra damage on focus spending abilities, a new ability that allows me to heal myself instantly and make me run faster, extra damage over time, things like that. Overall, I enjoyed my experience with Hunter a lot. I felt like there was enough depth for me to get interested in my class and to keep going with it. And I'm sure there's plenty of depth in the other classes as well, depending on what you want to play. I have a very big interest in also trying out classes like Champion, Guardian, Lore Master, and the Bjorning, which is locked to the Bjorning race only, and I thought they looked awesome. But I had a good time playing as Hunter, and overall, it was very nice. But to fully wrap up all of this, even though there's so much more I want to talk about, we will leave it at that since this is only about my first few hours playing the game. Overall, in my opinion, Lord of the Rings Online has left a very first good impression on me. The character customization for the race of man is really great for the standards of older MMORPGs. I am not sure if they are working on getting more customization for the other races, but if they are, that is great, as the race of man does have really, really nice customization. I only can judge what I have played of the story and my experiences with the combat in the short amount of time I was playing, but the story was definitely enough so far for me to get interested, to get immersed into my character, immersed in the story and the world that I have been thrown into, which is Lord of the Rings Online. It's iconic. And that entire intro section was honestly one of the better quality MMORPG intros I had done in a while, even for an older MMORPG. And even the combat and RPG mechanics for, again, an older MMORPG felt really good and enjoyable, especially for a veteran MMORPG player like myself. And the world detail, the music, and the ambience of the game, oh my god, there's so much I want to talk about with all those aspects of the game. But to just keep it really short, it is absolutely what you would expect of a Lord of the Rings game. It is absolutely there, and it's absolutely beautiful. Taking in the world, taking in the story, taking in the combat slowly and casually really helped me enjoy my experience playing the game for the very first few hours of my time. I think if you're looking for a much more casual MMORPG on the very chill side, and you don't want to be too threatened by having tons and tons of mechanics being thrown in your face, maybe feeling like you have to rush to the endgame, or you don't want to buy into an expensive purchase just to give it a shot, I would say Lord of the Rings Online may actually be the MMORPG you want to give a shot, especially if you are a lover of the Lord of the Rings itself. Now, there definitely are a couple of personal critiques I have with the game, like the lag. Oh man, the lag was pretty bad sometimes. Now, I will say I was playing a lot Saturday afternoon when I was recording and doing a lot of my gameplay and feeling out the game for myself for the first few hours, so that doesn't really help. But the lag was pretty bad sometimes where my character would stop moving or my character would just not attack at all and would just stand there staring at the enemy in the eyeballs. But for a majority of my time playing, the lag was very minor, or not really there at all, but when the lag does get bad, it does get bad. And also, the map quality is not very good. I am relatively blind in real life, I can't see very well, especially with glasses, and it is hard to really look at the map with it being so low quality and straight out of 2007. It could definitely use an update, honestly. But despite all of that, I still really enjoyed myself a lot, and I definitely expect myself to keep going and to keep experiencing more of what this game has to offer. In my first few hours, I do absolutely recommend that you give this game a shot. If you are an MMO player looking for a casual and more slow-paced experience, or maybe you're a first-time MMO player that may be scared of commitment and just want a more relaxed time, and having played this game a little bit with friends, it is very fun with friends, and you definitely feel like a mini fellowship in this world. Lord of the Rings Online is free to play. I'm not sure how long you could go playing free to play. I don't know how long you could actually go level-wise or like zone-wise and stuff like that, but I've heard you can go very far. I think I heard level 95 is how far you can go as a free player. I'm not sure how updated that information is. Please leave in the comments below if you are a Lord of the Rings Online player and know exactly how far you can go. But I hope my first impressions has inspired you to give this game a try, or maybe even try to look into it by yourself, or maybe play it with friends. I had a very enjoyable first few hours playing Lord of the Rings Online. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, leave a like, comment your thoughts below, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, and as always, have a great day, have a great week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.